right. Hey everyone, how's it going? Good to see you. Really great to be here with all of you. So today, I want to tell you a little bit about my creative journey and what I've learned throughout. And through that, talk to you about one of my projects, which I call the Illustrated Multiverse. So as you can see, it's an illustrated poetry book, but it also involves music, animations, characters of my own creation. So I'll touch on that a little bit more, but before I do, I'll go ahead and go to a video. It's a music video called Plato's Cave. It's a song that I composed, and so all of the characters that you see there are characters that I created, and it's part of this book. So I'll go ahead and let you enjoy that first, and then I'll tell you more about myself. Can you hear all right there? Yeah.
Are blinded, thinking this life is timeless. Then one day we're reminded the dreams can break before we realize them. A mother stands by her childish, dedicates a whole life to find it. A better way, pushing up for better days, feeling much pain, working hard all day, just grinding. But the child is the one that sees it, taste in the air when he breathes it. And even though we might not agree with it, he finds peace with the change of the seasons. Like they say, it's strong survival. With the waiting many seconds, we curse for time. While we watch it all pass us by, what we truly seek is out of sight. Super chase till we lose it all, getting up like a door to door. Then we hit the brakes, trying to break a fall, while trying to make it to the top. You lose it all. Understand what holds you up. We're born into this world and we're told it's tough. Most ain't to you without growing up. See, we ain't wise, so we're only love. But then it's too late. Our pain's too great. When the path too straight, you can lose your way and you can lose your faith. Man, it's a race. It's up to you now to choose your way. Choose. So take a look around you. Realize what it is that surrounds you. When open your mind, you're allowed to. It's the earth that you walk on. That ground. Close your eyes, close your eyes. Close your eyes. And open up your mind. As we stay in the cave, watching shadows in our own mind. And the world is out of sight. So close your eyes, close your eyes. Close your eyes and open up your mind. As we stay in the cave, watching shadows in our own mind. Is out of sight.
All right, so that was Plato's Cave. I hope you enjoyed that. This is a song that I created a while ago, wrote the lyrics, the music. I did sing it, and I worked with a wonderful rapper called Elfresh the Lion from Australia, and created the characters, did the artwork. So really, it's a whole creative process of, a holistic approach to that creative process. So yeah, now I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Fernando Jorge Moguel. So I was born in Houston, Texas. My family is from Mexico, so Mexican-American. I have one younger brother, which you see over there, where we've always been really close. And, for the longest time, I've really, my goal, my mission is about inspiring curiosity. So it's always kind of been that from the very early years. So I'll go to the next one. Tell you a little bit about my early years. From the very beginning, I've always loved writing, telling stories, doing illustrations, creating characters. Always, kind of connecting the different art forms. So, from the very beginning, I've loved that. And I've also always, like learning, being curious. I had a family that instilled that in us very early on, so really grateful for that. I'll go ahead and next, you can see, aside from the arts and music and illustration, all of that, growing up, I got a wealth of experiences from soccer and taekwondo, chess, academics, and many different things. So even though I don't necessarily do a lot of these things now, it's definitely contributed to a lot of what I do. I'll go to the next one. So one of these experiences in the early years is working with this guy here. He may seem a little familiar, Barney the Purple Dinosaur. I got a chance to tour with him for 2 years, performing on stage. We came to Houston at Compaq Center. And along the way, I met some other friends, some Wiggly friends. You may also be familiar with them. The Wiggles. So these guys, you may see them on TV with colored shirts, singing, dancing, hot potato. I also toured with these guys. And, from very early age, the age of 10, I started, working with them. In 2005, I got a chance to be the yellow Latin American Wiggle. So I was 15 at that time. You can see I already had a little mustache going there. And yeah, so eventually that took me over to Australia, filming, touring, and I ended up deciding to stay there. So I moved to Sydney in the year 2009. After a 5-month Australia tour, I was 19 at that time. So eventually, I started pivoting away from performance and singing on stage, and I decided to do university in Australia. So I did a Bachelor of Arts. Oh yeah, we can go to the next one. Bachelor of Arts, so I stopped touring as much and performing. I moved more towards production, creating, which kind of aligned to my love of creating different things in different art forms. And throughout this time, I also started to create for other, clients, people. Started to get experience in that, producing music, also doing some illustration. So that was really wonderful as well. And then around this time, this is when I started creating some of those characters and stories, plots, and songs for, the project that I would call Sign. So you can see there if you saw the first video there, you see some of those sketches, which would become some of those characters. The Mr. Pendulum guy, who's represents time. The little boy there, which I call Sign, and then my little drawing there of the name on a napkin that I did. So just some little things on my time in Australia. So around 2014, I came back to Houston. It was a bit of a rough patch. I kind of didn't know where to go, which direction to take. I had moved and pivoted. So came back to Houston, and I found myself managing a TV studio in an IB World School. So that was kind of my first entry into the formal education system. I'd always been around in the entertainment, performance area, kind of on the outside, but this was kind of my first entry into the formal education space. In this time, I also continued doing independent multimedia production work for myself and for clients, so continuing to do that experience. And in 2017, that's when I began writing some poems inspired by educational topics. So I always loved learning from philosophy, psychology, mythology. If some of you may know Plato's Cave from philosophy, the allegory of the cave. So that was kind of what the first video was based on. I started doing this, and a lot of these poems started becoming into this book that you see right here, which would eventually be this. the illustrated multiverse. And so at this stage, I started integrating some of those songs, the music, the stories into this book. And it kind of became a mix of all of these interests that I have in this holistic way. So in 2019, I teamed up with an animation studio who produced the first animated music video for this project Sign called Siddhartha. So the first one you saw was actually not the first one that I did with them. The first one is Siddhartha, which I'll show you in just a little bit. So some of you may know the story of Siddhartha Gautama, which would become known as the Buddha, but really the story of Siddhartha is about learning how to deal with change. So again, all of these little stories and concepts are kind of throughout the book. So yeah, I'll go ahead and show you Siddhartha. Hope you enjoy that one. Oh yeah, and so you can see, before I play the video, this is the artwork that's in the illustrated poetry book. You can see some of the concept artwork that I did before getting to this, and before in the previous slide were also some of the storyboards that I created for that. So now you can see the video, you know, in its finalized form.
Was a man once locked away, was so high, kept him away from all the pain, the bad, the broken, yet behind the night unopened. Then one day he ran away, searching for an answer to this world of change and feeling moments, running round, eyes wide open, running round, searching so far, trying to find something to hold
All right, so that was Siddhartha. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, this is a song that I produced, wrote, and sang. Did the artwork, the concept. The animation studio did a phenomenal job of bringing it to life through animation. And so you can see here in the book, you have the illustration as well, and the poem or the lyrics. So yeah, I'll go ahead to the next slide here and talk about. Oh, it's. Oh. Here we go. Well, there we go. Almost. Okay, yeah. So now, what I'm doing now is, well, I'm still creating. I'm still, doing all the illustration, the music, and videos, and everything that that I've loved doing. I've also been very much involved in the education space. So I've been a product manager for the past 2.5 years for an ed tech company, education technology, and really just continuing to be at the intersection of education and creative arts, which is really where my passion lies. Bringing that together in a really holistic way. I continue to illustrate, make music, write for clients and for myself. And recently, I was able to finally publish the illustrated Multiverse, which is this book here. So, it's really been a wonderful, long, and challenging process, but really rewarding. And so, yeah, this is definitely a highlight, of that holistic creative process. So I'll go to the next one here. Now, with the book, you've seen some of the songs that are featured in the book, but many of the other works are actual poems, shorter, more in like a poem kind of form, less of a song. So I actually wanted to show you one of the poems. And now, again, with this holistic approach, it's not just the lyrics, it's not just the illustrations. I try to go beyond, beyond the book, beyond the page, into other immersive experiences. So one of the things that I did, I worked with they call themselves a virtual architecture firm. So they create 3D environments, basically. And so I work with them to create some 3D environments for a few of my poems. Let's see if this works. This is when we can switch to the virtual space. Hopefully it'll work. So I can show you a little bit of that and show you one of the poems within this space. So here we can make it, hopefully we can make it big screen there. And if it doesn't work, I do have a backup with a video of one of the poems there that we'll show you. So, but we're gonna try and see if we can switch to, yeah. Yeah, we can just, yeah, okay. Well, I guess I can, so one of the things about this space is it's on the website, so I can share that a little bit later. And oh, we got it, okay, never mind. Well, so we can view it. Let's see if we can, maybe we can put the sound on. I don't know if you can hear. Okay, there's no sound coming out there. Yeah, it could be the internet. Oh, let's try the sound again, I think. Yeah. There we go. No, not coming up. No, that's all right. Well, I can show you a little bit of the space here. You can see you can interact with the space, you can move around, and then when you go into this section here, you see a lot of these orbs, each representing a poem. So when you click on one, it'll go into the actual space, and each of the poems has like a little environment built around it, kind of thematic. So we can go into the Galileo one, yeah? This particular poem is about Galileo Galilei. Many of you probably have heard his name and know about him. So, as you can see, it's a 3D virtual space. It would work better, of course, if you have a headset. But this just gives you an idea of one of the things that I've tried to do to create more immersion with these poems and these works. You can kind of look around, and yeah. So I don't think we'll get the audio here, but if we can go back maybe to the presentation, we can play it from there since the audio looks like it's still good. So I'll show you now the poem. So this is actually a poem that's been narrated and I've musicalized. So yeah, let's go ahead and try that. Oh, I think we lost sound. Okay, I think we lost the sound. So let's give it a second, see if we can figure out this technical difficulty. You know, we always have technical difficulties. Oh, there we go. All right. Okay. So, I'll let you listen to this poem.
I'm certain that you've heard some people say a certain name. And if you've ever said it, then you know it's fun to say. But do you know the story of the man behind the name? This brilliant man whose name was Galileo Galilei. Scientist, mathematician, and astronomer by trade. Inventor too and engineer was Mr. Galilei. Such genius and ambition this Italian man displayed. It's not much of a mystery why he quickly rose to fame. So many great discoveries and clever things he made. He improved upon the telescope to look out into space. 4 giant moons near Jupiter he found, and even they, known as the Galilean moons, now share his charming name. Europa, Io, Callisto, and Ganymede were they. These moons with very ancient names of Zeus's many flames were huge in size, but bigger was the impact that they made, for they would shape the course of history for Galilei. These were the first of objects to be ever found in space that orbited another planet in a distant place. These were the moons that Galileo found that fateful day by looking through a special telescope that he had made. At last he thought, this here is proof that surely lets me claim not everything revolves around the Earth. In fact, I'll state, the Earth revolves around the sun and not the other way. But almost everybody else had something else to say. How ludicrous, preposterous, and utterly insane. Some other guy, Copernicus, I think once said the same. Take back your bold beliefs, your mad remarks and silly claims, or those of us in charge will firmly put you in your place. But his ideas changed the world, and those that were afraid locked Galileo in his house, and there they made him stay. But Galileo wrote a book so critically acclaimed that made it sure his legacy and name would never fade. For now we know how true they were, the many things he claimed. The Earth revolves around the sun and not the other way. And now you know the story of the man behind the name. This brilliant man whose name was Galileo Galilei.
All right, so that was the Galileo poem. So as you can see, really the idea is to take poetry and take art beyond the page, and create these new immersive experiences, audio, visual, and at the heart of it is about inspiring curiosity. So that's as I mentioned from early on, it's one of my passions, and integrating arts with education to communicate and really inspire that. The book itself covers subjects from philosophy to psychology to even quantum physics and other things, but really trying to make it digestible and fun, and because there's so much out there to explore, and so many interesting things, and I think that's the starting point is curiosity. So that's what the book is about. Now, yeah, so a little bit about that holistic approach, especially now as we talk more and more about AI and other converging technologies. There's a lot of talk about the challenges, when it comes to just artists or people in general, which, there definitely will be challenges. Any transition is difficult, but at the same time, as an artist, I'm also optimistic, and I think there's a lot of, exciting things and advantages to leverage these technologies. The artist and their role in society has evolved, through time. As an example, a painter used to create their own paints, and that's not the case anymore. So, that continues to evolve, and I think, with more technology, there are other opportunities that open up as an artist. And I think, artists one of the things that are a positive is artists will be able to focus on the experience creation, the world building aspect, with a little bit of a less of a barrier with some of the technical tools involved. Of course, there will still be, a lot of craft involved and new technical things to learn. But I think, it's exciting to think, that many people will be able to create music and animation and with less of a barrier. So I would encourage artists, to be optimistic, as well as those who want to create art. There's a whole world opening up to, express creativity in these ways. So yeah, I think that's what I would say about the, these new technologies and sort of that holistic, creative approach. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And so just I want to leave now with just a few things that I've learned through this creative process. It's never too late to do something new. no matter how old you are or how much you've been doing one thing, it's always good to keep learning, exploring, trying new things. You'd be surprised, what you can do at any time. After all, the best ideas come often at the intersection of different and unexpected fields or aspects of life. So, a lot of these new ideas, innovations really come at the intersection of completely distinct disciplines and areas that you wouldn't expect. So, even if you specialize in something, even if you have a great passion for something specific, I think it's always good to just learn other things. And, you might be surprised that something will inspire you from a completely different field or area that you're familiar with. Get on your sailboat. So that's a reference to the first video, Plato's Cave, which I think you may have seen is kind of about following your passions. And so, be guided by those values and your passions. There are practical ways and indirect ways that you can align and chase. Aside from the romantic view of going head on, I think there are always ways that you can, align yourself and always pivot. There's always ways and different ways that those passions will manifest and evolve in, ways that you don't expect. So just always use that as your compass, I would say, those values and passions. Something I definitely learned is that in hindsight, the stepping stones of a path look obvious. It's kind of obvious, all of the different things that led you to somewhere. But really, when you're in the path, you're like, in the middle of everything. It's not obvious at all. And a lot of times, we feel lost and it seems disconnected. But, that's kind of what Siddhartha was about, is just learning that it's, life is full of change and full of pivots. So, I think embracing that helps for sure, especially in the creative process and in life in general. And I think the theme of this is about creativity, and that starts with curiosity and having fun. So, playing with different things, doing it for the fun of it. I think that's where it starts, and that's the best way to learn. So, definitely always have fun. And then, like any story, any good storyteller knows that the journey is more important than the actual destination. It sounds cliche, but it really is true. And that's when I say have fun, enjoy the journey, and also not just the journey, but the characters in that journey, which are in this case, your loved ones, the people that you meet along the way. And finally, I'll leave with this one: is be compassionate. The world literally depends on our compassion. The society and our ability to be successful, I think, requires our compassion towards others and towards, the planet, the environment. So, I'll leave it with that. That transitions into this final video, which is called Midas. You may be familiar with the story of Midas. So for this video, I tweaked the concept of the traditional story to talk about humanity and sort of its place with the environment. So I'll let you watch that, and that'll be the last one. right, and that was Midas. Thanks very much. I appreciate your time. Thanks for being here. It's been a pleasure. So I'll leave that here. Oh, in case you want to, connect, you'll find me there. And yeah, I mean, if we want to take some questions, I'd be happy to take any that are there. If not, I'll be hanging around here if you want to have a chat. Oh yeah, have a question over here. I'm sorry? What are my plans for? To do a musical.
The Galileo one reminds me of Hamilton a little bit. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
about a story and then expanding it out to like a full
Yeah.
But these are really amazing.
Thanks so much. Yeah, no, I mean, a musical would be really cool. Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I mean, it's something that I as you see, I like to expand into all different territories, just not just technology, but different formats. So, I mean, a musical would be wonderful. That's a great idea, yeah. Hopefully down the line. Thank you. Yeah, no, that would be wonderful, yeah.
Is the book available on Amazon?
Yes, it is. So it is available on Amazon. You can find it by the title. Also, if you stick around, I have some bookmarks with the QR code and information that I'd be happy to pass out, and you can use it for your books as well. So yeah, I'll be happy to share that. Yeah. All right. Any others?
So, with somebody from an outsider perspective who's not familiar with this type of world or awareness, what would be a good place to start as far as like resources to use as a reference or inspiration even? Because it seems to be a whole bunch of stuff, but what would be a good place to start?
Yeah, it's always hard to know like the exact place to start. I mean, what's that?
There's a lot of artistic aspects to it,
Yeah.
but then there's also, it's mixed in with a lot of stuff that you would have to actually know, research, and study as well.
Yeah, definitely. It has been a learning process for sure, and like learning on my own. I studied music in university, but even when I was little, I did music. But I was always drawing, and so I've taken a lot of courses online for like illustration, graphic design. For a while, I studied animation as well, but I worked with an animation studio because it's just very time consuming. But I was still very interested in knowing the process. Even if I wasn't doing the animations, knowing how to communicate with the animators, what are the processes involved, so you can kind of, when you have that holistic approach, it's easier to communicate and to carry out a project. So, I mean, we live in a world now where there's so many courses. One that I use very much is Domestika. It's a really good one that's sort of has a lot on like illustration and graphic design and creativity, business, and many things. But there's definitely courses like for music production, and I really would say, YouTube itself is a wealth of knowledge. And then I love reading. I love reading on, all kinds of subjects from, like a lot of the stuff that you've seen, like philosophy and psychology. So really, I think a great place to start is, if there's something that interests you, whether it's music or whether it's a topic that you want to read about, like start there, find resources online or, at a bookstore. And dive into it, not because you need to, just to enjoy it, and that's a good place to start. And from there, one thing will lead you to another. I mean, I'm sure you've all stayed up late night and you go down the rabbit hole. One thing leads to another. So in a similar way, but we just live in a world where there are so many resources. And now when I talk about AI and these new technologies, it's becoming sort of lowering the barrier to do a lot of things. Like create graphics and music, and there's still technical know-how, but I would say explore these new things that are coming, kind of just read about them and look into them, and I mean you never know what will kind of pull you more than one thing or the other. So yeah I would say that.
One more personal, I guess?
Yeah.
So what inspired you to want to combine the two? Like, did you see one artistic expression of science and you're like, this is a beautiful thing, and what was that for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Honestly, and I get asked a lot. So, what's your favorite? Would you like music or? I don't think I could pick. Cause from when I was little, I was drawing. I always had a notebook with me, drawing, writing stories, playing an instrument. So, I always loved, multiple things. And I mean, sometimes it can be a little problematic. Sometimes, jumping from one thing to another. But I think for me, I realized that I can't choose, so I kind of embrace sort of the interest in the way they connect and how to bring them together. So I mean, for some people who love drawing and want to just draw, that's great, it's wonderful, and I think definitely pursue that. But even if you specialize, I think there's benefit in just exploring other things. Even if you're not going to specialize in those other things, or learn how to do them, it still can be insightful. So, yeah.
One more with that being said, how do you, in a sense, or would you say there's room for permissibility and exploring a curiosity? But of course, a lot of people who kind of spread themselves too thin don't follow a lot of these things through all the way. Do you think that could be a healthy manner for the sake of just exploring and searching, or it's a counterproductive habit that shouldn't be formed from personal experience?
Yeah, no, and that's definitely a difficult. It's tricky to answer because, there are generalists and there are specialists, and we need them both. Especially in fields like the medical field, or like you have to specialize. There has to be specialists because there are fields that are so, deep that it takes many years, like physics, medicine, to specialize. So definitely, when you specialize and you have that drive to do that one thing, I say it's a good thing and do it. But even like outside of that time that you're working, if it's as much as picking up a book on a completely different subject, or another discipline, just light reading, even that insight can be a lot of benefit sometimes. Like there's solutions in like space or medicine that come from completely distinct fields, you wouldn't even think about. So I think it comes down to what feels right. Like for me, specializing in doing just one thing, I don't think I could do it. Like I think I would go a little crazy, like just doing one thing. But there are other people who, good friends who just do one thing, like coding, or they love to draw, and that's what they're doing. So yeah, if that feels right, then I'd say do that too. We need both. We need specialists. We need generalists. But dabbling never hurts, and you can take a lot of insight from that. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers. Do what kind of feels right. Yeah. And sometimes you can even go from like phases. Like I've had phases where I'm sort of specializing in one thing for a time period, and then I come out and then I do something else. So it can also happen in phases too. It really, like, honestly, for that it really varies. Like there was a time where like I spent a year or two focused on animation and like learning it and doing Blender and After Effects, and then I kind of got out and and then I sort of stopped doing it. Now a few years later, I'm not doing it really, but it's helped me understand the process, helped me communicate with animators, and really appreciate the art form. So again, there's no hard and fast rule. I'd say for me it felt like that's what was right then, and yeah. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. I appreciate the questions and your time, and yeah, I'll be around if anyone wants to chat. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Fernando. Fernando Moguel, everyone. Give him a big cheer.